years. He had owned the house hack for, I can't remember the amount of time, but there was a good equity chunk sitting there where it was like loan value and like appraisal. And that difference there was like as much as my entire net worth.
Welcome to the Small Towns Big People podcast. My name is Joe and I'm here with Kyle in this sweet ride limo ready to talk business, life, and anything else that comes up.
We're going around the Midwest looking for small town people who are doing great things. We hope listening to these guests will encourage, inspire, and motivate you to do something great within your town.
Hope you enjoy our next guest.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Small Towns Big People. We sat down with Duplex Joe from Green Bay. We did experience some technical difficulties. We have now learned that if you plug in a GoPro on an external power source, the audio cuts out but the video works. So the part that we lost of the interview was Joe giving an introduction to himself, talking about his past as a high school middle school teacher, substitute teaching, bartending, being a coach, how he jumped into working in trade shows with his brother, and what sparked his interest in real estate. He talked a little bit about how he was doing a personal financial statement, a net worth sheet for a bank, and his brother was kind enough to share his with him, so he kind of knew what to do. And the glaring difference was homeownership, equity in real estate. And that was his aha moment, so to speak, to get him really focused in and wanting to learn more. He dove into Bigger Pockets and other podcasts similar to that, started really trying to absorb knowledge while figuring out how to do this. He then transitioned to partner with his brother and do the trade shows to create the revenue that he could then invest into real estate. He touched on living very, very frugally, saving as much as he could to reinvest into the new endeavor, doing the work, doing the flips, doing everything he could to just acquire more real estate. And we'll join the conversation now.
So we had to leave a little bit of money in, but like it was good to teach us those lessons where it's like, okay, this equation or model does make sense. It's just how do we make it a little bit better? We self-managed our first couple rentals, but then being on the road as much as we were, which is probably more like a 9-month thing out of the 6. You have obviously weeks or in there where there's not great shows or something. Like let's pick on like February, for example. It's not as good as like your middle of summer, which is your busy season. That's all you're doing. So we realized that it was like we can't just self-manage these, and even if we developed really good SOPs and systems, it'd be difficult to do this while being on the road. So then we went to property management and gave that away, but then it gave us our time back for acquisitions, which is where I kind of more specialize in to this day. Now, where it became kind of my full-time job, if you want to call it that, or really switched to like a 80-20 or 90-10, which is probably what it is now, because I do maybe 5-6 shows a year, but it's not a substantial portion of my time anymore. And that was just turning into, well, where can you generate revenue? And it's either on a few flips or wholesaling. So getting some active income. So where because I was a deal finder, I'd find deals, and then from there, if it made sense, I'd keep it. And then if it was just like money's a little tighter, or there's other constraints, or just couldn't quite make sense of it, then pair it off to somebody else, flip it, etc. But I don't. It doesn't take much for me to, being a single guy, or I'm not dating. Been dating a girl a little over a year, but for the majority of that time, I could live off high 20s to low 30s a year, and I could do that just off my show income. And so then I could just take any rent money, anything else, and just keep deploying it back into the business, and then just not take anything from there. So then that way that could grow.
Okay.
And I operate that way. I don't take any of my rental money or anything. It's still just that's just still rolling. And then, yeah, these days I have to do some sort of wholesaler flip in order to kind of keep things going, but I still do enough on those like 5 shows that I can be all right. But real estate is a very capital intense endeavor, and you do have to have a good source of income where it wouldn't be very feasible. I don't think it wasn't for myself to just be like, oh, I'm just going to start buying rentals and like somehow make it work. Like, where's that money coming off of? Because if you're pulling money, let's say you get 6 duplexes, you got 12 doors, you're pulling in whatever you want to call it for cash flow there. If you're living off that, well, what happens when the roof goes out and now you've got a 10,000 or more, bill that's coming your way? That money needs to come from somewhere. And so I think you plow everything in, you wait a while so that balloon's large enough, and then you can make your decision. I'm kind of more in that inflection spot where I could probably give up all these shows if I wanted, and then just purely become I could take up that last 10%. It just doesn't make sense, and I enjoy it. So
yeah. Did you, when you first got into this, did you just kind of approach it as every individual deal I'm going to look at it, or did you have like a broader business plan and goal that you sat down and talked about? What was your approach from the writing it down to not writing it down to that whole side of it?
The mistake that I made early on but didn't realize was I would look at everything. So from a commercial deal would pop up, right? The wholesaler would have something there, to a duplex, to like a self-storage, Airbnbs, the whole deal. And the only one that really seemed to make sense where I'd have maybe multiple exit strategies or options with was the small multifamily market. And so it was one of those, like, I was poor early on in many things. I could analyze a STR, or I could kind of get through some cap rate stuff and things like that. But once I realized I could focus, and that's when my brother and we still have rentals together, but we kind of went our own way. I became Duplex Joe, and was like, I'm just going to focus small multifamily. And that really helped me get at least okay in the small multifamily game, where I only had to figure out a couple main things in terms of acquisitions and marketing. I didn't need to get good enough or good at all the things that come with management, which you all know there's so many legs to that business. If I can just get rid of that, I can just get good at these 4 things rather than these 60 things, and develop systems for all of them and stuff like that. And so that's more of the route that I've gone, and that I, being a Whiskeria host, I kind of recommend to people. It's like, figure out what works for you and your goals, but instead of analyzing everything under the sun, just pick a route and roll with it. Put a year or 2 in, and if you decide you want to stray from that, then you at least, because analyzing a deal is analyzing a deal. Once you figure out how to do that in one asset class or one product type within real estate, then you can do that across anything. Like, it was so much easier for me to get into self-storage because I've analyzed hundreds of deals in small multifamily. I've got the banking relationships and all that other stuff, where now it's just, there's plenty of nuance to self-storage. So it was just learning those nuances. I didn't have to learn how to analyze a deal, and that type of thing that really helped, where now those are the 2 legs I play in, is that multifamily and self-storage space.
There's a lot of math. You didn't happen to be a math teacher, did you?
No. No, I am sure I am probably the third smartest person sitting here out of this group of 3. It's just one of those where the things that have worked well for me was just kind of falling in love with real estate, so to speak, attaching dopamine just to the things that come. It's not just getting the deal or getting someone under contract. It's learning how to analyze the deal is like a skill, and like, not like rewarding that, but like giving myself permission to feel good about those types of things. And that's been very helpful. And the other big piece is just the relationships and people, where that's probably one of my stronger suits, is just shaking hands and talking to people and trying to be easy to work with and stuff, has been very fruitful, compared to just being a pure math guy. It's, following up with sellers and stuff like that is far more important than if you can get, your internal rate of return massively or something. That does help, and it has its role, but it's just so much more important to follow up from the acquisition side, like that's the thing that a lot of people don't do, and that's where you can win. And I still need to improve on that end,
Okay, so I'm gonna rewind again here. I'm still trying to connect the dot. When you were getting started as a teacher, real estate is like totally different to me, and I know you've got a brother up here, but what was the thought process that's like, you know, I went to school to be a teacher, I now have a teaching job, I'm doing my college my coaching, I'm doing all those things that I wanted, and I decided that introspectively or whatever, your goals changed.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did the goals change, and then the real estate was that new ticket that was going to get you to those goals? Or maybe what thought process did you go through that even realized that
The light bulb moment, maybe?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yeah, and that real estate fit into that.
Yeah. So reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad was influential majorly. Listening to Brandon Turner and them on Bigger Pockets was influential. But the light bulb moment,
Why were you listening to those? Why'd you read those books?
that book my brother recommended.
Okay.
Said it was a really good one. He's like, just learn a little bit more about money, and so I picked it up, and it was one of those where it wasn't easy enough because I wasn't a reader really at the time. I'd read coaching books and stuff like that. But that was one where it was an easy read, simple to understand, and it just that kind of just changed my mind. Okay, like other people are doing this, gave me some evidence. But the big light bulb moment was when I did my first personal financial statement, and my brother, being generous, like shared his because it was like giving me something to go off of. Because again, I've never filled out one of these before. I don't know what to do. Didn't have the foresight to be like, you could just YouTube how to do this, which I do now on a lot of things, from the washer the other day to anything else. But it was very clear that I was like 28 at the time, and so let's just call it the past 5 to 8 years. I had accumulated, it was like 28,000, I think it was, that was sitting there by the time I got done with it. And I looked at my brother's, and he had a house hack duplex, and that was the major difference. Because like, well, the cars are going down, and I saw my car went down in value. I saw that my bank account wasn't rising very quickly. In terms of like, you know, velocity wise, it's, oh yeah, I went up in like another $5,000 this year or whatever it is, but it's not moving quickly. And then on my brother's, he had owned the house hack for, I can't remember the amount of time, but there was a good equity chunk sitting there where it was like loan value and like appraisal. And that difference there was like as much as my entire net worth. And it was like that one transaction created this, and I was like, well, that's way better than what I'm doing. And so it's like, well, if I could just do like 3 of these, I have $100,000 net worth or whatever. And it's like, well, that's really cool. And I just kind of sat there. I was actually sitting at my desk in the room. I was a health teacher, and it was like, this has something to it. And just kind of stared at the wall for a minute, and was like, there's something here. Like my gut was yelling, you know, do something.
There it goes.
That's it. If you've never done a personal financial statement, please sit down, do one. Even if it's negative, that'll be a very difficult thing to do, but it'll be for me, it was one of the best activities I've ever done that has drastically changed my life and given me more options and everything else.
Was the whole process of getting started harder or easier than you thought it would be, or about what you expected?
It was harder. And I've heard other and every single person that's ever said this, I think it rings true, where if you want to quit your W-2, it is a worthwhile goal and worthy of pursuing, but you will need to work harder than you realize, lose more sleep. It'll be more difficult, and you'll have to do more work than what you're doing currently, and you're gonna have overlap. So not on top of your current workload, you're gonna have to add more. So you've got your, let's just call it 9 to 5. Well, now you've got 5 to 9 after, plus maybe earlier in the day, that you're gonna have to spend learning and building skills. And so you're gonna have to go through this sacrificial period. You have to pay tuition again in order to be able to build those skills. And so it's gonna be way harder initially, but then you'll have more. But the more work you do on that front end, the quicker you can move through it too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was fortunate where I didn't have wife, kids, other obligations, where I would have had to balance those a lot more, where I could just kind of, I'm washing dishes, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm doing deal evals, driving for dollars, all that type of stuff on top of, because I was started buying as a teacher when I was still teaching, but again, I was so excited that it didn't matter. Where, yeah, if somebody were to do this and they're like, after 2 weeks or so, they're falling off already, it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
it's going to take a couple, at least 6 months to a year, if not longer, to earn the ability to do that. Because again, if you quit your W-2, you now cut off your life, which is the income coming in, because you are going to need that income for properties and everything else. And yeah, rentals aren't just print money year one, because stuff's going to go, especially if you're buying something like I do, where you need to put work in, or you're getting a property for $1, and then, the city's help. There's still so much that goes in that stabilization. It's not
it's a very expensive.
It doesn't just print money. So you need money. So for me, I probably turned it off too soon, but I should have probably gone harder into the wholesaling, flipping, and all that early on to generate a larger amount before maybe keeping a few to really refine those systems, and then you can always just keep more later.
See, and
and you can make arguments out.
Yeah, I disagree with that. Like, I lean more towards Joe's perspective of, if I buy it, I'm keeping it. I put in all that work, I ain't getting rid of it.
Yeah. We kept most of it. But yes, right.
Yeah. And I mean, we can always go back and say, well, I should have sold this one, or I should have kept that one, or I should have done this. But I always go back to, like, if it was 2019 again, I'd be buying every mobile home on 2 acres in Marinette County for $50,000 to $60,000, and I'd be listing them right now for $120,000. But we can't, right? Like, so we can't go back. So if you'd have bought it today at that price that you got it for 3 years ago, why get rid of it? Like, that's the way my brain works on it.
Yeah.
But I do respect that you're at least thinking about, like, oh, I should have done this, or can I do it in the future different? That's, I think, a point that all new entrepreneurs need to do. Don't get stuck on, I do it this way, I have to do it this way, Brandon Turner does it this way, I have to do it this way, Joe does it this way. I gotta, like, you have to look at it and see what works for you.
But I do think that what we just talked about is a beautiful transition into residual income discussion. It's almost like textbook. What is residual income? How do you get there? It's a lot of work up front. And the cool thing about what you're talking about is you took a job that, teachers, get the summer off, but, like, you still got to work. You probably had to work all summer too. And you get all this stuff for what? For just to, you're gonna just swap into real estate? Like, the beauty of real estate is that you swapped into a thing that now gives you residual income that is going to produce for, like, you said you're what? How old now?
36.
Okay, so when you're 66, those duplexes will still be making money. And when you're 106, and when you give them to your kids, and they could take them, and 200 years later, they could still be making money. And you can go well, Kyle would go. I wouldn't go golfing. I wouldn't do that. But
mini putt is just,
mini putt, anything with a golf ball. I don't know. But residual income. So I'd like to ask how you make it residual, but that's kind of what you're doing, right? You understand residual income. You understand that discussion. So Bigger Pockets talks a ton about it. The only part about Bigger Pockets I don't like is the don't use any of your own money and the ultra leveraging.
Yes.
I don't like those aspects. Those, to me, I made probably millions of dollars on the guys that did that model and failed. And then I got I got some properties that had brand new kitchens, brand new bathrooms, but the drywall wasn't finished in the living room. Well, that's, a couple $100, and I got it for nothing. And, like, thank you. Thank you for that. Ultra leveraging puts you in a bad spot if it fails. And that's where you're talking about this transition. I didn't transition into real estate either immediately. I kept working my job. I did them both, like you said, working 80 hours, 90 hours, 100 hours a week. And then eventually we got to the point where, hey, now it's time to cut it off. And it's like, well, do I need to? Well, I don't need to. Maybe I don't want to. Like, I might as well just keep doing both, you know? And I did it with a whole bunch of kids. So you can do it both ways. You can do it single, you can do it with kids. That's not an excuse. There's a lot of people that say, well, I got a kid at home, you know, I can't do nothing. I gotta watch TV all night. Like, well, dude, get off your butt and go make a life for your kid.
Well, what's the average person? I'll be slightly off on this number, but it's either 6 or 7 hours a day they spend looking at screens, and it's like, what if you just took half of that?
I just
so-
said that
so
like
for
15 minutes ago as
Yes.
a car ride.
For example, I took, when I started my real estate stuff, I stopped watching TV. I didn't watch TV for 5 full years. And that was the
you don't
key.
miss it, do you?
There was so much time. No, we started watching TV again.
Well,
we do watch
you don't,
it now.
you don't miss those 5 years.
No, it was great, and I'm like, why am I watching this? I should go. Like, what can I be doing now? So, the TV is one of those horrible, horrible things that takes all our time away, keeps us from doing it. It's probably why more of us don't do what you've done, right?
And to your point, like that, you know, getting these properties from people that did, because leverage can be great. It adds an element of risk.
Mm-hmm.
But what those people likely had was an income problem.
Yeah.
Because if you had the, let's call $5,000 to finish off that rental or whatever it is, well, if you don't have that money, you shouldn't be getting into real estate.
Right.
And so like the first deal or two we did, you know, with my brother and I, we had a little bit of a nest egg where, let's say I had $25,000 in cash, like just pure liquid, and then he's got, let's say, similar. You can take down a duplex that should be burrable and everything
Right.
else, provided you've done your due diligence for that. And again, the ones I have sold, it's like I do need an extra $20,000 right now, and it just, I need that because then I don't want to put the banks, you know, the other handshakes I have and written agreements with banks or anybody else or that type of thing in a bad spot.
Right.
Because I know that's going to hurt me later if I can't honor those basic contract agreements.
Yep.
Well-
But again, kept most. But
Yep.
yeah, to your point, satisfy an income problem first. Where if like let's say you're a teacher and you're looking to move out, you need to have income. You can add a rental or two, no problem off of teaching income. But yeah, if you're looking to scale up massively and start a real estate business, you're going to need income to fuel that.
Yep.
The coolest part, though, about this whole thing is that now that you get there, you can go back to coaching and you can coach forever, and you don't even have to get paid for it.
I could volunteer. Yeah,
you can
right.
Well, you are teaching.
become
right?
a missionary, or you can.
And that's why,
Yeah.
I volunteer for that position.
Yeah.
I don't get paid any. It scratches the teaching itch, but it's on something that I want to teach about these days.
Yeah, and I poked around on Duplex Joe, your websites and stuff, and your free financial analyzers and
Duplex University stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was playing on there, so you're giving away some very valuable advice, tools, and teaching, right? Like resources. So that's pretty cool that you've tied that back into your current business as well. From
And that, like, I'd love to be able to punt a week, you know, and I could if I really, against all where you move your time, but because there's so many people selling courses and all that stuff, and it's like, and there's so much that's free out there too.
Right.
And my thing is also like, there's so many people who are like, how do I analyze a deal? And rather than listening to 10 Bigger Pockets podcasts or YouTube videos or whatever it is to figure that out, and people have really condensed that now, but it's just go on the site and download these tools, and if you're a self-starter, you actually care, you've got the stuff right here. And like that like the financing PDF on there, it's just a PDF, but I like read that off whenever I go through a new bank. Like, do you do construction loans? What's your LTV requirements? What's your interest rate? What type of balloons, you know, all that type of stuff that's in there, so I can get that stuff. So I'm like, well, I'm doing this anyways, and I'm already writing this down for myself. I might as well just share it because it's all out there anyways. Just make it easy for the people that, again, are willing to show up on the first Tuesday of every month and change their life like I did. And then who knows, maybe those people were doing something together down the road, and there's so many people from that room that have helped me, and I just want to be able to pay it back similarly.
Yep, and that's the beautiful thing. I believe, personal philosophy, all information is free. The execution of that's the only reason people should pay you. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a very long conversation with one of the owners of the brokerage that I work at yesterday, and we were discussing that aspect, because that was a big common theme this Tuesday, was like, give stuff away, help other people, blah, and it comes back. There's no way, tangible way to put that down on a P&L sheet, right? Like, there's no, it's hard for people to understand that, but it is so true. The more resources you're willing to share for free, the more your business takes off, the more houses you purchase, the more whatever you're doing comes back. And it's the weirdest phenomena that is almost inexplicable and unbelievable to people that don't partake in that.
And even for folks that are newbies, whatever you want to call that, put quotes around that newbie term. But even if you, let's say you have a single family home you live in and you buy one duplex or one investment property, you're going to learn so much from that you might as well, somebody else is going to be following in your footsteps, help them out, because again, who knows, maybe they have a deal that doesn't work for them that does work for you. And that's, especially early on, the more people you know, it can really vault yourself forward in so many ways. Yeah, it helps to have a banker who's going to work with you, or contractors that are going to really help you out and be good, and those are valuable too. But it's other people in the industry where, just like you guys, I'm sitting down here with you, but who knows if some storage deal pops up in Wausau or Marinette County or whatever, and it's like, well, would you mind giving a quick drive-by for me or something? Like something like that, which saves me hours of my day, but then you also get to check it out. Maybe it creates conversation. Maybe then there's so many things that can ripple from that you don't know. It's weird how that stuff happens, but it's all about relationships.
Okay, can we hit the storage unit?
I knew you were gonna
we gotta do this, because because like duplexes, dude, I'm right with you. I got it. I get it. Yes. Storage units, I am not with you. I'm like, what? Where? So I ask this to everybody. How do storage units make money? Show me the numbers, or do something like, okay. But explain to me the process that you're going, that you think storage is a really great deal.
Okay. Because you guys manage a few as well.
We do. I used to manage a lot, and I hate them.
Yep. I hate them. Because there's pros and cons to from.
So I should say, I'm going from not as a management side, but the management side, there's absolutely no money in storage. Okay? Management, what a waste of time. Okay, but owning storage, and I guess there are property managers that manage storage. I don't understand those people either. Yeah. But like, okay, so I'm gonna let you go. But
if you find, you know this already, but it's like, if you find a deal good enough, it'll make it
sure, anything makes sense. If I get storage units for free, then I'm okay renting storage units.
It is easier to make money in multifamily than it is in self-storage.
Okay, good.
Considering the couple thousand phone calls I've had to make to get the couple I've got, and the locations that is, and like everything else is just so much easier to just meet a couple older folks that just want to pass it down to a hardworking person, and they're like, yep, you know, and it's not a crazy deal, but it's a good enough deal, and you just get it done. It is so much easier to do it in multifamily. Okay. And I have found that out too, and I agree with you to a certain extent, or you know, I agree with your premise. Well, my old business partner Rob and I, which he lives down in Texas now, he was a teacher as well, left to become a realtor, so that was his income source and all that. But he got a storage facility back in Dubuque, Iowa, and it was one of those where he got a good deal. Yep. Naive me and probably him to a certain extent, didn't understand like how good of a deal it was compared to just everything else is out there after multiple thousands of phone calls. So folks, if you're thinking about just getting into self-storage, I'm going to save you thousands of hours. And it is a very overvalued, popular product type in real estate that it is so difficult to find a deal like you can get on a duplex, we'll just say, that it's just difficult. You also have, can be more passive in nature in some ways, but it's also not in many others, where let's say you're getting $80 a unit on 10 by 20s, we'll just pick a random number. It takes 10 of those to equal just one 2-bedroom unit. And so you have a lot more touch points, you know, and all it takes
10
is
more customers, 10 more phone
customers.
calls, 10 more collections,
Yeah.
10 more trash outs, 10 more. Oh my goodness.
Yes. And yeah, all it takes is just like if somebody blows up your bathroom, so to speak, or they, you know, do something with your plumbing, or you have something go out, you can lose a whole year's worth of cash flow. Well, same thing on a storage unit. All it takes is somebody to leave all their stuff. You have to go through an auction, blah, 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 and it costs you $500. How many months or a year or two of cash flow for that unit do you need to make up? And it's a smaller dollar amount.
And now take that, and now take it as a manager, and I'm getting 10% of that $50, $80 a unit. So that's $8. So if I have a phone call that goes more than 15 minutes, now I'm losing money.
Yes.
Ah,
Yeah.
horrible.
I think to your point though, I love the honesty that you had there with they're overvalued, because I have looked at dozens on the MLS and they are crap. Like the numbers don't
Even off market.
They don't work. Yeah, so
I'm looking at
that
deals
makes sense
now.
that you're looking for those deals specifically. That I can see where that'd be tough.
I'm looking at some things that are on the market right now, and I'm paying less for a duplex per unit than I would be for these storage buildings, and I'm making 10 times less of income.
I think the way we're to get to it, I think the way where it makes the most sense, if you can't find a unit, like truly unicorn deal, which unicorn deals are very hard to come across, of rest and just it's a deal.
When I started, they were everywhere.
Yeah.
They were everywhere. It was 09, 08,
Yeah,
09.
when did you first get it?
2010.
Yeah, okay.
Like, oh, so great.
Yeah.
You say 2019, I'm like, that wasn't a good time. But it was.
It was
but
great pre-COVID.
but
Yeah,
not
pre-COVID.
compared to 09, 010, 2010, but I don't know.
The way I think it makes the most sense would be if you have a construction company,
Yes.
where you're really good,
Yes.
and you can reduce your costs so much, but
Or,
then you don't
you
have,
build them and sell them to these crazy people that are buying these
and that's
storage
probably what I should do.
Yes,
Like I should drop
Yes.
everything else and just become
Yes.
a builder.
for sure.
But like it's also then you'd have to sell because you don't have all the skills and systems to run self-storage, and again, running it isn't
But
going
you
to
don't
be as
want
profitable.
to. It's
as
not going to
building
make
it.
any money.
Yeah.
Sell it, make all the money, then go build another one.
Yeah.
Sell it to some schmuck that wants to think storage is a great deal.
Yeah.
The other thing, though, I think, is tax shelters. So the other reason that I don't personally like huge multifamily is because the prices there are, in my opinion, the same as storage.
Yeah.
Because the guys with $100 million in their bank account right now, and they're like, well, I got to do something with it. I mean, even if it loses money, I'm just going to buy that, pay for it. It's going to lose me money, but I've got a tax shelter.
Yeah.
And that makes the store. I think the storage is a big tax shelter, and I think big multifamily is a big tax shelter.
Yeah. And it's funny you raised it, because I was looking like, okay, well, it can be Duplex Joe. I can continue on this way, but like, where can I move into next that could really help me grow fast? And it was either self-storage or large multifamily. And it's like, well, if I can self-manage, I can keep a little bit more for myself, build those systems and everything else, which then it made based off of what we had kind of done or looked at, which we wholesale a little bit nationwide on self-storage, but then got out of that and was like, I'm just going to manage in my area and build that up. But that's where I was like, I feel like I could have an edge if I self-manage one of these routes and build these systems. But it just felt simpler to do with self-storage. Yeah. But again, I don't, unless I build or something, I don't see it massively grow, because everybody else is building too, and so rents aren't increasing, and it's tough.
And I find that the best deals are the things that nobody wants, right? The car that nobody wants, that's the one I want to buy. The cool weird little house on the hill that is like, what the heck is wrong? That's the one I want, right? The man, that is a dump. That's a dump. I want that one because nobody else does, and it's gonna come cheap, right?
Shingles for siding.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Who gets a duplex right now, or who gets a 5-bedroom for $35,000 right now? Nobody.
Yeah.
Right? That's a great deal. Yes. So, but the ones like when we look, even in this neighborhood, like this is a nice neighborhood, everybody wants to buy this house.
Correct.
Right? That's
you're
why
not finding a deal here. Like,
you're
it's
not.
so rare.
No, but that one over there that has the 24 cars in the backyard, and like that's the one that my wife would go to, be like, Now that wall's green. I can't buy this house. I can't buy this house. It's a green wall. Like, no, I can eliminate all those people. They're not even interested, and only a few people are gonna want that one.
And that's like pure wisdom in itself. And you've got maybe 4 to 5 times the amount of market data that I do, because you've just been in since 2010, we'll just say, and I started in late 2018, early 19. So you've seen more of these cycles, but it's been so apparent that whatever's the pretty girl at the dance floor. So it was STRs for a while. It's been self-storage, and it still kind of is to a certain extent.
Yeah.
When you're chasing that pretty girl, so is everybody else. And look at how is STRs doing these days? Didn't take very long for those to fall off. And if you're a good manager and whatever, you can still make it work.
Did you define STR earlier? I can't remember.
Short-term rentals,
There
like
you go.
Airbnbs.
Yes.
So, but it's similar with self-storage. Like, it doesn't work unless you have a very competitive niche in that space. Find the problem, which would be the 24 cars in the backyard. If you can solve those problems, you're going to do well. And the more people that chase something, if you go a different direction.
Yeah.
So what's unpopular right now is probably a good one. That's what we should be shifting it. You know, who wants to get up on a roof these days? Not too many people. If you start a roofing company, you did really well, you'll probably do all right, and then you'll find all the properties with bad roofs. Right. And again,
like, well, your roof is going to be $40,000, or I could just buy this, take 40 off the price, and I'll 35 off the price, and I'll take it.
Yeah. I buy roofs, or I buy houses with bad roofs, and occasionally have to do one.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
exactly.
Would not be a bad route.
Yep.
So circling back to the business side of it, and your execution of your daily business and stuff, do you have a budget that you follow that's like actually written down, or do you just kind of...
I'm not a super big paperwork. You know, I've got a few KPIs and things like that, but that's an area that I would be looking to, that I am looking to improve and get better at. So I don't have specific budgets, but I have like ballparks of like ratios of where I'm at, specifically on the self-storage side. On the rental side, it's more just the formula of what generates projected cash flow, and then you see at the end of your tax return kind of where you fell in. But I don't have, you know, my virtual assistant takes all the phone calls and does all that stuff. Like, I know where he's at, I know where expected rents is, I know how many units I can increase on. So I've got
so you budget like Kyle.
buckets.
You budget like Kyle.
I have it all itemized.
You still haven't shared it with me. I don't believe you.
I
don't believe
Kristen did it.
Oh yeah, so Kristen did. See, you still don't do it.
I don't, but she did it. He has harped on me. It's all in my head when I started talking
which is
with him.
it sounds like it's in your head too. You understand it well enough, right? So it's there. But
I will say the biggest thing I've changed. So like, we're closing on a house tomorrow that we are going to renovate and rent.
Awesome.
Just super cheap, but it's a project. So even that project now is budgeted out. Like, we have line items going down through with what we think it'll be, and then we're putting the actuals next to it, just because if it's not real. I have been told I have a tendency to round down on my numbers. And
we all do.
Everything looks
Everybody
way
does.
nicer.
Oh yeah.
Especially when I'm explaining it to my wife and partner in the business. So she's been very adamant, and that's probably her favorite part about Joe, is that she's seeing me listen to that from you. So writing it down.
That's crazy. To get Kyle to listen to me, I can't almost believe that.
I've switched to Google Sheets too for
Woohoo! Google's getting rid of Microsoft. Yes.
But that has been a game changer that I would really encourage you to even just type up a crappy spreadsheet with what's in your head, and just keep up with it from a budgeting, because it's very similar to the point you made about your net worth sheet. It wasn't real until you saw it.
Right.
Yeah.
The
So
budgets are very much the same.
why I think budgets are so amazing is because a budget is super boring. Right? Writing a budget, super boring. Keeping your budget maintained, super boring. But what a budget does is it predicts the future. That is exciting.
It's predictable, an accountability tool, and a
Yes,
lot of other things.
but not only like the near future. I project out 5-10 years to say, like, okay, like, let's say best case, this all happens. What does that look like in 20 years from now? Holy crap. Right? What is this one thing that I'm doing that I just do? If I just do this every month, I have a $20 million business. in 5 years. What? Was that going to happen? I don't know. But that's an amazing, or better yet, is when I'm like, oh, I'm going to take this, I'm going to, maple syrup. Okay, this is a great one. Maple syrup, man, I can do this, and I'm going to do that, and now I'll expand that out to 10,000 trees, and I'm going to make $12. What? I guess I'm not doing maple syrup.
Right.
You know?
Well, and we're thinking about where maybe the bad habit, if you want to call it like that, started, or why I operate that way, is because, you know, like back when I was, let's just say, being a teacher and doing the sales during the summer, like, let's pick a number. I was living off 30, but I was making like 80.
Mm-hmm.
So like I just didn't really need to, because it was just like as soon as I flipped in, it was like, okay, this is good. And then similar deal, it was like the first couple duplexes, like whatever it appraises out at, it just shifts the numbers. Where I've got a spreadsheet on my global portfolio and all that, which, you know, I've got some of those things on mine's all filled in, but I don't have it spat out. You know, I've got rents in there and my expenses and stuff, but it doesn't, which would probably be a couple quick formulas, spit it on down to projected, and then just compare that to my actuals, and then put that in and just run that formula on the other side.
And then see, is that, but that also helps your projection. Because then you operate, and you obviously, you know, he knows Google, he knows formula. Do you use Google Sheets?
Yes.
Yes. Excellent.
But then even like on the flips and the smaller micro budgets, it'll help you identify what contractors you need to change, where you underestimate, where you over it. Like you could save, you know, 10, 20, 30% in the long run, just identifying a weakness and changing it. And even on your
but now, so the more we talk about that, though, there's some problems that come up the bigger you scale. So when I did my original numbers with apartments, like, okay, the first 100, like I can do that in this, and then the next 100, and then it's like, well, where's the time gonna go to handle that, right? And you talked about that already, a management company, but let's scale, you continue to scale your wholesaling. Let's say you continue, like, there's a time where you mentioned an assistant or a virtual assistant?
Yes.
Okay. Well, what's the time where you need 2 and then 4 and then what's the time where it's not, a virtual assistant isn't enough. I need another one of me to make these deals happen, right? And so then you get into a problem of, well, they're not going to be as good as me, right? And that's what all of us have, that problem. Like, how do I let them do that when I'm so much better at doing it? So in my mind, the budget gets us into that frame of mind where, okay, what's realistic? What lets me manage? How does it let me manage other people better? When you're only managing yourself, yeah, you probably got it figured out. But once you get to that next level, a budget is necessary in order to make sure that Jill's doing the right thing and Johnny's doing the right thing and Sam is. And honestly, you've got a good brother, but I've heard a lot of stories of bad brothers. And it's like, hey, is brother one taking all my money? And then where's all the cash, dude? And he goes to, you know, on real nice vacations forever.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The other cool thing is the virtual. Can you talk about the virtual assistant thing? I think we beat that budget horse down.
No, absolutely. And I'm just taking some mental notes here. Like, how could I just make this easy and simple, but just add a few things, and it could give me. Yeah. How do you get 80% of the way there with 20% of the work? And exactly. Probably not too far up.
Well, if you've got Google Sheets, you're already 90%
there. So virtual assistant, and I've had others before, like back when my business partner Rob and I were wholesaling self-storage nationwide. We had like 6 or 7 cold callers and stuff like that, so we had worked that up a little bit. And then it left that on very good terms and just kept some of the leads that were up here and then closed on them and all that stuff, which was a good healthy exit. And, but to get to the virtual assistant side, I knew that it was like these daily calls that come in, rent increase letters, like all that stuff that needs to get sent out. I'd be much more effective if I have somebody helping me out with that, so I can do my best things, or at least some of them at least. You know, we all get caught up in the little stuff, but so it was like, if it's from a computer, I want someone to be able to do at least a lot of that from the self-storage side, since I'm self-managing. So I've had very good success with folks in the Philippines, and have found all of them through Upwork, and there's plenty of other sites.
Oh, that's Chase's thing.
Okay.
Prosper? Do you use Prosper virtual assistants?
I do not, but I've heard of Prosper. But I just found them directly and work with them directly. So I bring on a service.
He's
or
got
anything.
600.
Oh,
he's from Eau Claire.
Oh, you mentioned. Yeah.
He was in school with us till what? 8th
Yeah,
grade,
he was a year ahead of me.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 years ahead of you. Yeah.
But it's a great route where they can make a very good wage for their standard of living and everything where they're at over there. And then at the same time, I can get somebody who would be substantially more affordable than what I'd have to hire around here. And then we can then just, crush together kind of thing. So I hired them directly, utilized them, created a bunch of SOPs, and I use Asana for that, so we track all of our stuff there for tasks, SOPs, all that type of stuff. So we do all that through there, and then he handles phone calls, emails, financial reports, a number of other items, and we have a weekly call once a week. Initially, when I brought him on, we were doing a daily call to get trained up and all that like you would with any other employee, but it's kind of like my right-hand man and just handles a lot of that for me. The good news there is he's able to do enough where I could take on another facility if I can find another unicorn deal or whatever, and then he'd be able to handle more without having to take on another VA, which is good for right now, and that would actually decrease my expenses and cost. That. And then he does some other side item stuff for me if I need it on my marketing side or all that. And ChatGPT has been very helpful.
Oh no, I hate ChatGPT.
Yeah.
One of my managers told me that he started writing his processes for our guys to do. I think it was roofing. Okay. He said I was just struggling, so I just got ChatGPT out and I told it what I wanted, and it wrote my whole roofing process for me. Oh no!
Which maybe a lot of people do that. I think that it's a good place to maybe start.
Yeah, outline.
It's good outline, and then you need to refine from there.
I don't know. I'm a programmer. I'm tech. Okay. I do not like ChatGPT at all. I hate the way Google. Whatever. We're going off. Let's go back.
It'll get better. It'll get better. But
I hope not. I hope it dies. I hope it dies and is buried forever and never comes back.
Viable, but I don't know how the
no, it's not. It's never gonna go away.
But it is. I think the big risk that people talk about is it can make you lazy. Then you overlook stuff and you miss things, and that amount of time you save. Well, if you have a $10,000 expense now because you missed something, how much was that worth? So you gotta have checks and balances, and I like it as the outline.
Yep, I've used it in real estate. You see it all the time. You can tell when it's a property description.
You can tell. You can tell because it's all BS. 100%. It's all a whole bunch of if I didn't read that, my life would be better. Is actually what it is.
I've tried it, and it's never spit out anything that I've actually.
My daughter uses it constantly.
But
it's so bad.
I like it for an outline purpose for an SOP. I would agree that'd be super quick and efficient rather than me trying to use just my brain.
And where I've used it where it's actually probably giving me true value is I'll get a little the better the prompt, the better the result generally, but on marketing avenues and things like that where reaching out to moving companies to do a promotion where it's if they refer somebody over to us, and I didn't think about that. So it's been good for some idea stuff for marketing and some stuff there where it's I only know what I know, and I can spend a ton of time on YouTube and whatever, pay for a course, sit down with people who are doing more than me and self-storage, but it really could just spit out a bunch of stuff pretty darn quick where it's yeah, I'm doing all this, I hate all this, oh, that one thing's cool, I'm gonna take and run with that.
Yeah, especially in your situation where limited partnerships and people in the day-to-day of your grind where Joe's got people, he can go and talk to Dave in the shop, he can talk to Heather, he can talk to all these people and bounce ideas off of them. You're essentially using ChatGPT as a idea bouncer.
And if something sounds good enough, I can always call in somebody from there too. It's a tool, but it's definitely not a solution.
I feel like this marks me as being old because all the kids are doing it and I hate it.
It's the gray hair too, buddy.
Yeah, well, okay. But yeah, I think that's...
Ask ChatGPT if you should golf, it'll probably tell
No, it'll tell me some stupid answer there too, I'm sure.
I'm going to get you golfing this summer.
You will not.
Yeah.
No.
I'll come to a jiu-jitsu morning if you go golfing.
You will not. You'll break your back.
Well, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll tap out.
Okay, so what about other technology? What other things? We already talked about Google. What other
like the
tech
Google
do you guys
Sphere.
use?
They do good stuff for a lot of things. We got a lot of our stuff on sheets and
Yep.
docs. You know, it's good. Other tech, so we use for self-storage, ESS, Easy Storage Solutions, which is like storable. It's good enough. It checks the box. Maybe if I had some monstrous facility or something, I'd probably want something a little more in depth. But like it checks the box. My property manager here in town uses AppFolio, which that's been a pretty easy thing to work through or work with. But it sounds like on their end, there's just a ton that they do that I can't see, obviously, but it keeps it good. And what else do I do? And then Asana for KPIs, tasks daily, things like that. My Google Calendar cross references with that too. But other than that, software wise, I don't get. Oh, we use a soft phone dial pad, and that's for taking calls in. I can also make calls out on that. A lot of owners I just call right for myself, wondering if it's good enough, then I'll actually save them so their name pops up and there's just no friction. Oh, hey Jim. Yeah. Makes a big difference over like, oh, who is this? And it takes the first 30 seconds, and now there's friction there in the call, so I like that more. Yeah. Or saving them in dial pad, depending on what it is. But
we used to do that all the time. Even our maintenance guys, and then our maintenance guys started swearing and saying things they shouldn't be saying, and so then we pulled all of them off of that, and we don't allow them to do. But yeah, I mean, it's so much easier to operate that way. But there are some times where, dang.
Do you have a CRM?
Oh yeah. Well, real quick, have you guys found any other stuff? Hearing what I have, I'd be very open to anything you've got, any other softwares or things like that where it's like, this has made a big difference in my life.
Various CRMs is the only real software I use other than Google. We and that all connects with our Google, so all my contacts are in my phone, so everybody pops up.
I use REI Sift though currently, and I'm actually probably gonna be moving over to REI Simply. And yeah, so what do you guys, but that's for CRM stuff. What do you guys use for your side of things?
We're on AppFolio.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on that. Yep. Okay. But I also, a lot of the stuff we do, AppFolio doesn't fully do. So like I've tied in a lot of Google scripts and other things like that afterwards to help manage. But yeah, and it's mostly Google, and then AppFolio. We also tied into Zillow's advertising network. Okay. So, but that's just for advertising. Yeah.
Yeah. And you do Wave for accounting?
Wave, I like Wave accounting because Wave is free. Well, it used to be. I'm not sure. It might be.
I heard you hate QuickBooks on that.
Oh, I hate QuickBooks.
I've heard people using Wave and like it. Like I've never heard anything bad about Wave.
Well, I liked Wave because Wave was free. They did advertising on the side. That was their income stream. Now they've switched to the model of getting paid, but I still don't have to pay. So I don't know. I'm grandfathered in. I guess so. Yeah, so it still works good for me. But it is way cheaper than QuickBooks, and it's like QuickBooks was the old school accounting. Okay. They still do it that way. Yeah. And Wave still does reconciliation, still does double accounting, but it does it all in a way that's like, well, that was easy. Why is it so stinking hard? You know, so the thing with QuickBooks is you got to have an accountant do it. Wave, anybody can do it. Like, so whatever.
Noted. Okay.
Yeah, I like Wave a lot, but
you don't use any CRMs or anything, do you?
No, I don't think so.
Because
like, I mean, I'm not a real estate agent.
Well, because like most of your leads, I would imagine, are coming in just via organically, just because you're on Google, you got a bunch of properties.
Yeah, and I've never.
You got contractors out there, like it just comes to you.
Right.
I would imagine.
Yeah, we don't do cold calls or any of that kind of stuff.
Well, then AppFolio kind of is a CRM too, because once they've worked with ABC, they're in that system too. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. So
yeah, a standalone CRM, we use Wise Agent. It's super cheap.
Okay.
It integrates with just about everything, and then you can do newsletters, emailers, all that stuff. but it's cheap. That's why I use it.
This is off topic, but for anybody listening, this is valuable because it's good for your employees. If you're using a virtual assistant, especially over in the Philippines or outside, but Wise is also a payment software method that you can use for virtual assistants. So if anybody out there has virtual assistants and you're paying them through PayPal or something else where they're taking large fees, and the bigger thing is the exchange rate. Sounds a little funky. Go to Wise and you can pay them that way, and they will automatically get 5 to 10% more money just off the exchange rate, and your fees aren't as big. So let's say you're giving them $400 instead of it being like $7-8 or $15 if you're going through a business credit card. That drops substantially. Like I think mine are usually $3. So you get a save and they make more money. That's a win-win. Highly recommend that.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we're getting to the point now where what help do you need in your business? Like what problem do you have that is just kind of really frustrating right now for you?
Two things that jumped. I can always use more leads, like anybody can right now, but that's like, it seems like over the last 6 years, if the more leads you have, the less problems you don't spend so much time looking at the bad deals, or you're not trying to make them work or rounding down or whatever it might look like. But good deals, more of those coming across my plate would be good, which I then ramping up more marketing, probably bringing on another person to make some of those calls, set up initial appointments. A lot of that initial outbound is a bit time consuming at this point, which I'd like to remove from my plate so I can do other more leverage activities. The other one is getting just a little bit more organized, which you guys kind of brought up earlier, but on the budget side of things, just dialed in bookkeeping, like just better at a lot of those computer tasks, I guess you could say, where maybe like an admin assistant would be fruitful there, who can just bring a lot of that to the finish line. So all those little subtasks, if you break your day into 15-minute increments, how can you get rid of 30, 40, 50% of that? And even if somebody's 80% as good as you, well, maybe that takes, but if it takes half your day out and it's their full day, who cares? Like,
if you can make twice as much money, that's worth it.
Those are the two things that jump to mind when you say that, if I'm being honest, I think.
Did we talk about how you set goals or how you do that now? Not really. I mean, we talked about it to begin with.
Budgeting and...
And you say, and so are you aligned now to your goals? Kind of with what you want to be doing? Is that where you've kind of, these are the two things that you're seeing you need to change? I'm assuming that comes from some process that you go through with goal setting or problem solving, or I don't know.
So the biggest, like, I have like some acquisition goals and stuff like that, but I honestly probably don't have a tremendous amount of clarity or written down SMART goals, like measurable and stuff. In terms of other areas of my life, like I have like a bucket list, life list kind of thing, but like I don't have those like implemented in my calendar, so to speak, where I'd probably be served well for doing a once a month, some type of structured meeting, whatever the time ratio you want to pick, but to make sure I'm hitting multiple areas of my life versus just acquiring another storage facility and whatever rental, like those type of goals. It'd be good to add that.
I guess that gets me to that point of like, well, what's enough? How do you know when, you know what, I've got enough storage units, I've got enough duplexes, now what? Like, what is enough?
Right. Because at this point, I would like to start looking a little bit bigger. I've got enough now where like I'm good. My girlfriend's got 2 kids and we're getting pretty serious, so I'm thinking that's been something over the last couple months that I'm thinking much heavier about. I'd like to be able to help my parents out a little bit in a couple of years, that type of, but like getting those things down to tangible. So an example would be you pick a dollar amount. So let's say I want to contribute X amount towards a business or college fund for the kids down the road, or like my parents X amount a month, or those types of things. Then how do you get to that number? That is a worthy meeting and exercise that I need to probably get going on pretty soon here. Again, or otherwise things just slip and then you're just, on that.
Yeah, that was our first one of our first talks, and first time I've ever written down goals was this year.
Okay.
Projected them out 5 years.
Oh
measurable
my!
items.
Look at you!
Yeah,
You didn't
wrote the
even
whole
tell
thing.
me.
It's like 3 pages long.
Okay.
And it is the money side of things, but it's also, I write down my problems, like, right, listing leads, huge thing for realtors. How do I do it? What do I do? What do I gotta invest my time in? Because I'm a big believer, like, if you invest your time and focus on that problem, you'll find the solution. Whether it's sending out 1,000 mailers, making 500 phone calls, or whatever it is to get more leads to call you. Like, is it creating a 2-minute video every morning on a Facebook page?
Right.
Get it out there, get one to hit. Like, what do you have to do? Well, whatever you do, just stay with it for 6 months, and
Right.
it'll probably solve a lot of your problems. But having those goals in the forefront and actually looking at them has been pretty significant
Yeah.
for changing how I approach every day and how I even approach deals. Like, okay, well, my goal is X amount of revenue per month, which will allow me to reinvest, 70% of that. Well, if that doesn't give me that revenue or doesn't allow me to save time to get my revenue somewhere else, I just don't do it. It's just gone. I just don't even think about it again.
So one thing that's an interesting conversation and helps, I guess, I really get excited when we get past the money parts of the goals and the stuff of like the nut trees, that budget discussion that we had, but like that's not a business. That's just like a fun thing to do. And like, what are those fun things to do once you got the money handled, right? You're getting close to that point, it sounds like. Now what is life? Like, because life isn't about making money. Is that tool to get us to do the things that we want to do.
Should fuel it,
right?
yeah.
Yep. And if the only goal is to make more money, I don't really get excited about that. But if the goal is to make enough money to put my kids through college, to do this, to retire at 80, 65, move to Florida and live in a trailer, great. That's the American dream. That's what we do. We do the 9 to 5 and do that. Like, when I think about that, I don't want that. I want something more. I want different things. I want a lot more things than that, right? And so I retired when I was 30, but then this is me retired, right? I'm still doing stuff. I like doing things, and that's the exciting part. So you're getting close. Like, what is it? What is more than just making the money? What is the thing that excites you? So that's a fun discussion.
Yeah.
Fun thing to think about.
And that's a good way to like it. Those types of, rather than putting a ton of weight behind it, making it heavy, it's just like you get to design things, and
it's whatever you want.
Get to, yeah, and
yeah.
I think that one's going to be an overdue one for me, and I need to sit down and then review that with, I got a couple people that are really good in the area here and stuff that'd be good to review that with.
Yeah. That
are a couple seasons in front. That would be, I think that'd be quite fruitful. I like that.
Yep. And he mentioned, so my retirement plan is to open up a chestnut orchard.
I was going to ask, like, what the nut tree was, an analogy for something in your budget.
He's kind of nutty, but
yeah, well,
I gotta chop these 5 trees out of my backyard. I don't care what it takes.
Yeah. So my
That is my
retirement is going to be to start a nut orchard.
Okay.
This is the
maple
first
syrup.
budget that he ever shared with me.
Okay.
He wrote a budget to do this. This is his trial.
Yeah.
His trial that he half wrote it, and it's still not done yet.
It's added to, but
oh,
it's
is
not
it?
done.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And bees, do an apiary, and then do, we've added loofahs, organic, natural loofahs.
Isn't that a bread? Isn't
No,
that an
it's-
Israeli bread that
it's
they
a plant
eat?
that you cut
A
up, and then
loofah?
people pay like $3 a piece for them on Etsy
Okay.
for little chunks, and it looks like a zucchini.
Then it grows. That's like a starter or something.
Yeah, you just plant the seed and go, and you get like $7 a plant, $8 a plant. It's pretty wild.
Just something that excites like you two, or like what about chestnuts, or like what or,
Just something to do
something, yeah.
by myself with my kids on my land, get away
'Cause I
from
know
everybody.
I listen to your podcast. You're into hunting and land and all that, so it's like, you put a bunch of trees out there and have a little fun, But
And I retired, like, I didn't do it as cool as Joe. Like, I got medically retired from the Army.
Okay.
So when I was 24, I bought a motorcycle. Last time I didn't do anything and just took off across country. That's not super productive when you have a family. So I have to find.
Got to be a big motorcycle.
I gotta, yeah, right?
Yeah.
I gotta find a whole lot of stuff to keep me going.
Yeah.
I'm not to sit around and do nothing type. So having that beholden to nobody else and just me and the family doing stuff that's productive. And
I think is it an idiosyncrasy or an oxymoron or whatever, but it's the guy that is able to sit around and do nothing. That's the guy that is not going to. Right?
Yeah.
So it's all the guys that are like, man, I wish I had all this money so I could just sit around, play video games, or like sleep, or like, dude, you're never gonna have it because that's not the kind of guy that's gonna get the money to be able to do that.
Yeah, your goal is the opposite of what it's gonna take.
Yes.
And then by the time you go through all that, why would you just sit around?
Yeah, now I'm
when
gonna
you
sit
can do all
around. I'm
this
not
cool
gonna sit
stuff?
around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So cool.
Heck yeah.
Did you have any questions for us? Is there something? I know you mentioned the two things that are struggles currently. I think if you work on those goals and setting those up, I think the solution will come really, really quickly to you.
Yeah.
Whether it's leads is the hardest thing in the world, but it's something you have to figure out that your method of getting them, because mine, Joe's, nobody's going to work for you within your business. But is there something that we can help you with? Or
Yeah, let's go with this, because especially this back half has been great in terms of perspective items. How about this one? Like, what's been like one of the bigger light bulbs that you guys have had this past calendar year or in the last few months here that's really shifted maybe some perspective or, just thoughts on how you approach your day? Has there been anything big that's jumped out to you recently that's been impactful?
You want to go first?
No.
As soon as I stopped focusing on money, the only thing I write down money for, the dollars, is to track the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, so if I sell, even when I sell in real estate, it's I track sides more than volume. So how many people can I help? So I've shifted everything except for metrics that I can't track without money away from it. I don't think about my commission. I don't think about what anything is outside of the deal. Like, is this a profitable? And I look at that in percents, right? Like, I look at it as a double or a 20 or 30%. Otherwise, everything I do is just, do I want to do it or do I not want to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm anxious, I do it.
Okay.
Like, if it's an easy yes or an easy no, I don't do it. Like, it's just like, it's probably going to bore me, or I don't want to do it. But if I'm like, that sounds weird. Like, this podcast, it took me like 3 months to wrap my head around the fact of getting on camera talking to people that we don't know very well about things that, all sorts of things.
So if it stretches you, that's the things you want to say yes.
Yeah, if I'm super anxious about it.
Okay.
Yep, I always do it then. I'm doing some remote manager work for Joe. I absolutely thought that would be the worst thing in the world. I don't even manage my own rentals. My wife does.
Yeah.
So I was like super anxious. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try it. Like, and then them are always the places that I grow the most and learn the most and have the most fun.
Yeah. What I like, because that kind of combats a lot of the things that I've been. It's where it's like try to get really good at one thing, focus, specialize in that. But it sounds like, and that is kind of like where you grow is when you're trying new things. You might lose some efficiency, but like maybe you make up for an outsized returns on your experiences and stuff too.
I get very bored with efficiency. Okay, so I'm not the greatest executor. I'm very good at setting things up and figuring out problems and coming up with a solution and making something happen. But as soon as it gets repetitive, even now, like, I've written these processes in my company, and when the person's gone and I have to fill in for them, they're like, oh no, Joe's gonna do it. No, because Joe always screws the stinking process up because I've forgotten and I just get bored and I'm like, what am I doing? I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So it's not a new thing. I've always known that, but I don't like doing the same thing. I don't like optimizing. It's not quite right. I like optimizing, but I don't like executing on what I've just optimized. I don't like doing that process then. Yeah. It bores me to death. So if there's something new, so I do jujitsu to stay in shape, but the only reason I still do jujitsu is because all these guys whoop me all the time, and that guy should not have whooped me.
It's a new
But
chess
he
match
did.
every week. Right?
It's amazing. And that like I can't go to the gym.
Yeah.
If I go to the gym, I'm like, well, I get there and I might get into it, but like going the next day, no, I got something better to do. I'm bored of that. Like, how many? We spent a lot of time in the gym, but I mostly spent time in the gym because I was going to pick you up.
Yeah.
Or I'd pick somebody else up. Like if I was just going by myself, like,
Or competing against each other.
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
which I
setting
would
up
usually
competition.
win, you know. Yeah, but that's how I'm wired. So like, if I was only in one thing, I would be very bored. So I'm very much the same.
I've heard that a ton. What you said, the riches are in niches. But I hate that statement. As a real estate agent or broker, I would make way more money selling houses like this in neighborhoods like this. But I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So if I can go to a lake house, a house down here in Green Bay and look at it and show it and list it, why can't I sell them all? Property is a property is a property. Once I learn about that area, I love that variety. Same thing with investing. Everybody says, oh, get your buy box, get your target. You can only buy in this neighborhood or this area. Why? If there's a deal in Eau Claire and I got a property manager over there, why wouldn't I buy in Eau Claire? Why wouldn't I buy in Wausau?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I need to buy duplexes? If I get a smoking deal on a single family, I'm buying the single family if the numbers work. So I stand with Joe on that.
So here's the difference between what we've done in this. We're very similar on that attitude, but what I've done is I've taken then and hired people to execute on these neighborhoods, to execute on those things that I've written the process. I know how to do it, got it figured out. Now please do this for me and do it. Okay, no, don't, and let's change it, tweak it, let's optimize it. But they're executing, and that is what that excites me a lot. I enjoy that a lot. So that's the kind of stuff that I want to do every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking of. Can you rephrase your question again? Say it again.
Yeah, just essentially what light bulbs have you gotten recently, whatever you want to diagnose recently, but like something that's changed your perspective or something that's really gotten you excited or changed your perspective and really helped you grow or you're pointing towards now.
Our company has always had metrics and budgets and processes and goals, and we've always had that. I've always had that for the stuff that we're doing. And anytime you have people, it's important to have that. However, is a year ago, maybe a little more than that, we actually took our physical budget and we matched it line by line up with our actuals, what we're spending, and identified some major problems, and we are making 10 times more money now than we were making last year. Not because of growth, because of streamlined processes. And you're not doing that kind of stuff yet, but like, it's incredible how comparing budget to actuals has solved. And it's not like I solved the problem. That was the light bulb. Like, oh, well, Dave's making how much money now on? Holy crap! What did he do there? Oh, how, that got fixed. Well, who fixed that? And what? Oh, wow! Look at that. These things that they all kind of fix themselves when I just included everybody in the process and we talked about, look, this is where we're at, this is what we need to make, this is what our budget says we can make. And then when I project out in our 5-year plan, like, oh man, that's private jet fun. Right? I mean, okay, cool. Like, will that happen? I don't care. But that's exciting. Yeah. So that was mine, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
Put a little more trust in others, or helped you trust others a little more?
Yeah,
or?
I trust all of those guys.
Involving them and just giving them the wherewithal to be able to make those decisions.
Because I've always struggled with like, oh, I got to give this to you. Like, well, you can't do that right. Like that. No, that's not how I do it. Look, let me show you, and then I just do it. So this has been the hardest struggle for me over the last 5 years. Is just. And sometimes I've gone even too far and went too far back, but like no, we've got really good people now that know what they're doing, and just giving the right direction, the right focus, the right metrics to track, they corrected themselves. And it's true, like, there's a lot of studies out there, and like, I've never believed them really, and I've never really been in a position to be in charge of people enough so that these things would come out. But like, yeah, it's true. You give someone that is competent, capable, willing, and able, give them some key metrics, they'll hit them, and then the next time they'll do them better, and then they'll do it better, just naturally, because we're all competitive. Even the people that aren't competitive, we're all competitive, and we all want to do a little bit better, even if it's only like, $1. Yeah. That's better. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. It's neat.
That delegation stuff is a monster skill, leadership, all that.
It's
and that's but it's how it's not just for yourself, but you can also impact lives and so many other things that come from it.
Right. And that's where when you get to the point where you can retire, when you can get on the bike and just drive around the country, that year, and we'd mentioned Chase, like, he did that same thing. I've talked with a few people that it's like that year is where they went from, I stayed home and homeschooled my kids with my wife for a year. Well, and that'll get you out of the house quick. but that was it was like, oh, okay, so now I want more out of life. This isn't it. Hitting the financial goal was the one thing, but like, now what? Why don't I just die now? Like, I guess I did it, But no, that's not. I want more. I want other things. And the coolest part about it is those things are all different. Every single one of us, they're different. That's exciting. So we hit that goal. That's one of the biggest, most exciting things that I do now, is my companies are designed to get other people there. And to then, once they're there, to work with them, now that you don't have to worry about money, like, now what? Right? And it's that's a long process. That's really exciting to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome, guys. I appreciate you having me and everything else here too, and taking the time, and really like this podcast structure as well, just because I've been on a couple now. This is maybe my fourth, but this one was very, not just tell me about yourself, but also very where are you making changes, and then also like a little bit of questioning on that, and like growing a little bit, where I've actually got some like takeaways I need to go walk inside and write down right now, kind of thing. So I appreciate that. Very fruitful. Yeah.
Well, Kyle likes to make it awkward, so that's what we try to do.
Just casual and awkward.
Casual and awkward. That is their theme. Yes.
When we first started, I didn't send anybody the notes. Okay. Of how the outline was. I thought it'd be way more. It'd be more fun and entertaining, just jumping on people. Yeah. Let's go. No, but Joe, thank you for coming again. And how can anybody get a hold of you, find you, where?
Send you leads. How do we send you leads?
Yeah, if you got leads, great. And if you just want to reach out, totally fine as well. But pretty much Duplex Joe on any of your socials, from Instagram to X to whatever there. Go on, please, if you're newer in real estate, or you just want some basic systems, so like a deal calculator, PDF for talking to your banker, everything's free, but go to duplexuniversity.com. You can always do a contact button on there as well, and I think my email's on there too. But all that, please use it, so that way you don't have to listen to 250 podcasts like I did to kind of just make them all and stuff like that. But hope that helps you, and good luck to you out there, and appreciate you listening as well.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the links for our guests in the comments section on YouTube and Facebook. Drop a like, follow, comment, share with somebody. If you have questions, make sure to ask. We're always here to help. And remember, friends don't let friends suck.